Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street.
And happy weekend to all. Welcome to the program that analyzes the week that was and helps position you for the week ahead. I'm Maria Bartiromo. President Donald Trump formally accepting the Republican nomination for president, outlining his plans to make the economy great again on the final night of the Republican National Convention.
Under the current administration, we are indeed a nation in decline. We have an inflation crisis that is making life unaffordable, ravaging the incomes of working and low-income families, and just simply crushing our people. I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's turned out to be very popular, actually. It's called no tax on tips. No tax on tips. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly.
Fox News polls this week show 73% of voters think that the current condition of the economy is poor. 76% are now cutting back on spending just to afford essentials and necessities. Joining me now is Key Square Group founder and CEO Scott Bessent. Scott, good to have you. Thank you so much for being here. You're also an economic advisor to former President Trump and a key fundraiser for his campaign. What did you make of that speech on Thursday night? And if he is reelected, what would you advise him to do on day one to help this economy?
Hi, Maria. And let me just tell you that, as we go into the weekend and we think and we reflect on the week, it was an incredible week. The people, the energy here in Milwaukee, the people in Milwaukee were incredible. Congratulations to the organizers. And then President Trump capped off the week with a great speech outlining what 4 years of Trump 2.0 would be like. And I don't have to advise him what to do. He's already done it. He did it from 2016 to 2020. And let's not forget that January 2020, the economy we'd had 3 incredible years. The economy was in fantastic shape, and then COVID hit. And I think here we just kept hearing the themes again. Get the Trump tax cuts extended or made permanent. U.S. energy dominance will get energy prices down and unleash the 50 trillion of natural resources that we have. Get the budget under control, stabilize the border, and I like President Trump's. We're the party of common sense.
Mm-hmm. All good points. We're hearing more big names in technology and venture capital throwing their support and their money behind the Trump campaign. Many cheering his selection of former venture capitalist J.D. Vance for vice president, rather. But then you have others on Wall Street and Silicon Valley who are concerned about a potential push by Vance for more tech regulation, his pro-labor stance, his praise for Biden's FTC chair, Lina Khan. He's also spoken out against corporate tax breaks, and he may want to do away with the carried interest deduction tax loophole for private equity firms. Your reaction?
Look, I know Senator Vance quite well, and I am hoping that someone will talk about what his life story. This is a great American success story of the 21st century. This is what America is all about. And for JD to come out of the beginnings and become a Marine, Ohio State at 2 years, Yale Law School, and I spent a lot of time with JD, and he's a pragmatist, and his view, and they're still in formation, is that a lot of policies have failed the American people, and I agree, and I think President Trump, Senator, soon-to-be Vice President Vance, are willing to examine everything that has gone wrong with the economy and offer solutions. I think nothing is final. I think the insanity is, as Einstein said, to keep doing the same thing again and again and expect a different outcome. So, I would encourage people on Wall Street to pick up their pencils and actually look for solutions, because I think Trump 2.0 with J.D. Vance in it, led by Donald Trump, is going to be about solutions for the American people, for the economy.
And I know President Trump has used tariffs in some cases to offset national security issues. I mean, President Trump doesn't use tariffs just on economic issues. He used tariffs against Communist China because of the bad behavior of Communist China and as a national security offset to what we were seeing there. So I think it's important to recognize how Trump has used tariffs, because you've got all of this pushback from people like Bob Rubin, who writes an op-ed in the Times the other day calling Trump a danger to the economy, even though we've seen Trump's economy in the first term.
Well, look, the American people, the good thing with this unusual election, we have a clear, clear choice between two candidates. We've seen President Trump has proven the economy did great, the American people did great. Under Joe Biden, we've blown out the debt. The top 10% have done great. The bottom 50% of American earners are getting crushed. You could see a little also in the stock markets yesterday, today, with the idea that the Democrats who profess to love democracy are about to pull a pooch and they pull President Biden from the ticket. And let's just remember, I live in South Carolina. My Congressman, James Clyburn, rigged the primaries so that Joe Biden could not be contested. They moved the South Carolina primary from third to first because they're afraid things can go haywire and democracy can speak in the Iowa caucuses. And now they're trying to unrig it and get President Biden out because it looks like he might not win.
Wow. It's a developing story that we're covering, but the former president is attending a Bitcoin conference in Nashville next week. He's reportedly planning to announce making Bitcoin a strategic reserve asset, a major shift in the government's approach to crypto. The Treasury would buy and hold billions in Bitcoin like it does for gold or foreign currencies. Scott, I want to get your take on that.
Well, look, I've been excited about the president's embrace of crypto, and I think it fits very well with the Republican Party, the ethos of crypto is about freedom, and the crypto economy is here to stay. The Democrats are running from it because they're trying to wash off the stench of Sam Bankman-Fried and his family's donations to the Democratic Party. So they're willing to take down a whole industry because of bad behavior on their part, bad behavior one actor, and I think that everything's on the table with Bitcoin. And to me, one of the most exciting things about Bitcoin is for a generation of investors who maybe post the great financial crisis have been looking for investment opportunities, or maybe they'd soured on markets. Crypto is bringing in young people. It's bringing in the people who haven't participated in markets, and having a market culture in the U.S. and people believing that markets work for them is a centerpiece of capitalism.
Yeah, all great points. Scott, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for joining us this weekend.
Good. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you soon. Scott Bessent joining me. Wild swings on Wall Street, meanwhile, as a big investment rotation and major Fed and election headlines move markets to new highs and then lows this week. Adam Johnson on where things go from here when we come back. Here's a look at where markets ended a very volatile week. The Dow Industrials initially hitting record highs early in the week, boosted by investor optimism for a Trump election win and expectations of new policies, as well as expectations for a Federal Reserve rate cut in September. But then stocks dropped better than 500 points on Thursday as massive selling in tech stocks and chip companies led to the worst day for the Nasdaq in more than 2 years on Wednesday. Joining me now is Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund portfolio manager Adam Johnson. Adam, it's great to see see you this weekend. Thank you so much for being here.
You bet.
I want to get your take on what happened earlier in the week as the Republican National Convention was ramping up and kicking off. Stocks were hitting all-time highs. What do you make of how investors are viewing a potential Trump return to the White House?
Oh, investors and Wall Street at large absolutely loves a Trump White House, and that's why markets have been up. Yes, I know they've been volatile, but think about what Trump means for the markets, Maria. It's lower taxes, it's fewer regulations, it's unleashing American ingenuity. Obviously, near and dear to my heart as someone who runs an American ingenuity fund. So yes, I'm fully invested. I do think Trump will win. The market also likes certainty, and as he becomes a more certain, not candidate, but certain winner, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think that's what the market's trying to do. The market's handicapping a Trump victory, and that's why it's been up. So yes, I'm fully invested. I'm good with it, and I certainly think the market is good with Mr. Trump.
So let me ask you about small caps, because little by little we've seen this broadening out of this market. And Thomas Lee from Fundstrat, I'm reading his research this week, and he is calling for and expecting, he says he's going to expect a summer of small caps. He thinks that this group has legs, and he's expecting a huge move in small caps through the end of the summer, and he's looking at how it compares to the last big rally in small cap stocks. What do you make of the move in small caps in the last 2 weeks?
I love what he has to say. I agree with him, and I'm long a lot of small caps, Maria. So I've put my money where my mouth is on this. So for 2.5 years, small caps have just been sideways, and it's because of high interest rates. Small caps are far more sensitive to interest rates than large caps, in part because younger companies tend to need capital, and when rates are higher, the cost of capital is higher. But the other thing, it's a little more subtle, but it's important to understand, those future earnings that these smaller companies aren't making yet have to be discounted back to the present at a higher rate when rates are high. But the flip side is when rates go down, you can afford to pay more for those small caps, those future earnings that are out there a couple of years down the road. So that's why small caps are rallying. It's the expectation that rates are coming down, number one, and number two, we're going to have fewer regulations courtesy of a Trump White House. So yes, I'm long small caps. I'm still long all the AI companies that you and I like to talk about week after week. Of course, I'm long Magnificent Seven mega cap tech. I think of that as sort of core ingenuity. You have to be long those names, and that's certainly where more certain growth is. But what's exciting is to see the small caps finally, Maria, finally starting to participate. The best 5-day run in 50 years until the sell-off that happened in the middle of last week. So that's all very, very positive.
All right, let me get your take on where specifically in small caps you want to be putting money. I was just looking at the S&P 500 in the first half of the year. You mentioned NVIDIA. NVIDIA is up 150% just in the first 6 months of the year, Adam.
Oh, I know.
Supermicro up 188% in this first 6 months of the year. Are we going to have a similar second half? Or, you want to put new money to work in these stocks now?
Yes. Yeah. I've been putting to money. Yeah, I know. Adam Johnson, Permabull. But no, think about the backdrop, Maria. We have the 3 E's of earnings, the employment, and economy. Earnings, right? We're going to see, I think by the time the second quarter reporting season is done, I think we're going to see 10, 11, possibly 12% growth. That's faster than what we saw in the previous 2 quarters, 7 and 8%, right? And the reason we have earnings is that people are employed and they are spending money. We had the most number of people ever transiting through airports this Sunday after July 4th. People have money. I know things cost more and it's uncomfortable, but thank goodness we're all employed, so we're able to spend money. As we spend money, that's good for earnings because 2/3 of the economy is related to consumer spending. And then we have the economy, right? GDP that's still growing somewhere around 2, maybe 2.5%, against a backdrop of inflation finally starting to come down towards 3, maybe even the middle 2s, which is why we can talk about rate cuts. So I think that's a very powerful backdrop for stocks, whether you're talking small caps that finally are going to get some break on the interest rate front, or whether you're talking about the continued expansion of AI that kind of changes everything, Maria.
All right.
I don't mean to just wax poetic about liking everything, but I think there's a lot more to like right now than not to like.
And you would put new money to work in this market,
Yes.
this broader market right now.
Yes, I have been putting new money to work. I intend to continue put new money to work. I will add one caveat, just because I think you have to be balanced. If you look historically, Maria, at the past 5 years, what you've found is that July and August tend to be very good for stocks, and that's what we're seeing now, volatility aside. And then in September or October, you tend to get a 5% correction. And then the race to year end, you tend to, on average over the past 5 years, get about a 10 or 11 percentage point bump. Again, that's for November, December. And this year, you may even get a Trump White House. And I think that will add to that bump because we talk about tax cuts, fewer regulations, et cetera. So again, it's not a perfect backdrop, but there's a lot more to like than not to like. And it's why I'm fully invested, Maria.
All right, Adam, great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us this weekend. Adam Johnson. Quick break and then blasting Biden's green agenda. We will hear from a petroleum engineer who took to the RNC stage this week, pushing for American energy independence. That's next.
With President Trump back in charge, we'll not only be energy independent, we'll be energy dominant. Drill, baby, drill! Drill, baby, drill! President Trump understands that abundant, affordable energy is vital to our economy and to our national security. Meanwhile, President Biden is pushing the Green New Scam. His campaign against responsible development of oil and gas is crushing everyday Americans like you and me.
And that is Pennsylvania petroleum engineer Sarah Phillips touting President Trump's pro-energy agenda at the Republican National Convention this week and slamming President Biden's climate change regulations and policies hurting everyday Americans. Energy prices skyrocketing across the board since President Biden took office, with overall energy costs up better than 35%. The price for a gallon of gasoline up almost 50% since Biden's inauguration. Sarah Phillips joins us right now. Sarah, thanks very much for being here. You had an impassioned speech, and former President Trump said in his speech Thursday night that the high cost of everything right now has been caused by higher energy prices because that's the underlying expense that goes in everything.
West Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, I got to talk to Pennsylvania directly. If they were their own country, they would be the third most natural gas producing country in the world. We have enough power, we have enough energy to power the planet in just those 3 states for 600 years. And the 4 pillars to our modern world are plastic, fertilizer, cement, steel, everything that you see. This camera that I'm talking to you in, you know, my makeup, this building, everything, your glasses, your cell phone are derivatives of oil and gas. And there's such a desperate need for oil and gas. So not only is it crushing Americans like you and me, our grocery bills just skyrocketing, everything that you just said, there's a massive global demand for oil and gas.
But,
so,
I mean, they want to do away with fossil fuels, Sarah. You know that. Do you think that this administration does not understand that energy is underlining everything?
I mean, everything that I just said, everything are derivatives of oil and gas. And renewables are great. They're a great supplemental energy, but they cannot replace oil and gas. It's just not possible.
So what do you want to see from a potential return to President Trump in the White House in the way of energy policy, Sarah?
At the convention, he kept saying, drill, baby, drill. And we have so much supply just in my little region. And that's why we need the support of our politicians.
Sarah, it's great to have you. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sarah Phillips joining us in Milwaukee. I've got one important thing you need to know about ahead of next week. That's next. You need to know about ahead of next week. High-stakes meetings in Washington. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressing a joint session on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, where he will face a Congress bitterly divided in its support for him and the war on Gaza. In May, leaders invited Netanyahu to share the vision for defending democracy, combating terrorism, and establishing peace in the region. Now, more than 200 bipartisan House and Senate congressional staffers are urging lawmakers to protest or boycott the event. At least a dozen progressive Democrats, including Bernie Sanders and Pramila Jayapal, have said they will not be there. Netanyahu is then expected to sit down with Joe Biden, if the president has recovered from COVID, in his first visit to the White House since the war in Israel began. We'll be following all of it on Mornings with Maria, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Fox Business. I hope you'll join us weekdays on Fox Business. And I'll see you over on Fox News Channel on Sunday morning for Sunday Morning Futures, 10 a.m. Eastern live. I've got exclusive interviews this weekend with Eric Trump, the former president's son, Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia, Dr. Ronnie Jackson, Representative Jackson, and Newt Gingrich, all talking about the state of affairs. Join us live Sunday on Fox News Channel. That'll do it for us here on Fox Business for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. I'll see you again next time.